Our top focus, which we are tracking from the state of Karnataka. Now, it is yet another questionable move. Why is that? Well, because of the fact that the Karnataka government is under scrutiny for earmarking a staggering 9.10 crore rupees to acquire new cars for their Netas. In fact, this comes at a time when the state struggles to fulfill its annual poll promises and with new infrastructure projects on the back burner. Now, a whopping over 9 crores have been greenlit for the purchase of 38 new vehicles. Now, you're asking, who gets the keys? Well, the beneficiaries of this extravagant spree include the Chief Minister, Cabinet Ministers, MLAs, the Special Representative of Karnataka Government in Delhi, and the Political Secretary to the Chief Minister. Now, while officials argue that these acquisitions are essential for official purposes and the Chief Minister's visits to New Delhi, a stark contradiction unfolds as the Karnataka government grapples with a shortage of funds to fulfill its 5 poll promises. Now, new infrastructure projects languish overshadowed by the extravagant spending on cars, reels, and furniture. Now, the question arises, are these purchases, a testament to the government's misplaced priorities? The government's affinity for luxury is further highlighted by the decision to spend 10 crores on 33 high-end cars in September this year. As the state witnesses this lavish display of opulence, the BJP criticized the move, labeling it as a stark failure in delivering on promises. Meanwhile, the Congress government defends the purchases as routine, intensifying the political storm. The opposition led by the BJP condemns the government's actions as indicative of a leadership that has failed to honor its commitments. Now, on the other hand, the Congress justified the expenses, downplaying them as routine accusations. Now, as Karnataka grapples with financial constraints and unfulfilled promises, this splurging on cars becomes a symbol of the government's questionable financial stewardship. All right, so that is, of course, the top focus that we are tracking as far as this questionable move by the Karnataka government. Now, essentially, why is this so important to be understanding is because this move means that a staggering 9.10 crore rupees is kept aside to acquire new cars for the Netas. In fact, while the opposition BJP corners Siddaramaiah government over this action, the Siddaramaiah Sarkar defends the action, going on to state that the Prime Minister buys a plane and they only want cars. But the larger aspect of this is, is this a waste of taxpayers' money for the Netas' comfort is one way to look at it. The other being that Karnataka has also been struggling to go on to fulfill those promises, of the poll promises rather, and having financial constraint.
गरीबों के लिए सरकार है, केवल अमीर लोगों को सुविधा रखने के लिए ऐसा खर्चा कर रहा है। आज 7 महीने हो गए ना, इरिगेशन के लिए कितना पैसा खर्चा किया है इस सरकार, इरिगेशन करने के लिए कितना पैसा खर्चा किया है, रोड डेवलपमेंट के लिए कितना पैसा खर्चा किया है, 1 पैसा भी खर्चा किया नहीं, 1 पैसा भी, केवल लूटना और बांटना। किसको बांटना? हाईकमांड को बांटना।
Last rally in Hubli by Mr. Modi, where the Union Government of India and the Karnataka government, by the Bombay government, spent more than 17 crores in that rally. What about that account? When BJP will ask that account for it? For Mr. Modi's rally of in Hubli, they spent more than 17 crores. And here, some other facilities for the ministers have been provided in Delhi. Therefore, BJP must explain why they spend money for this much money on Modi's events.
This is all routine work. Government will purchase cars for government. It will be used by ministers or officers. That's all. They don't take their home. They don't take the cars to their home. It is not a property of minister or officer. This is the property of government. Unwanted things these people will talk.
All the Congress government has not fulfilled their promise which they are given in their the time of election, the 5 freebies. But now they are diverting like some other issues, like they are giving sanction to 7.4 crores to purchase new car. Already in state also they have purchased so many new cars, so that they don't know the problem what the farmers are facing in Karnataka. At the time of drought also they have not released any budget. That means that shows what type of administration that CM and his teams are giving. So that totally all over India, all the 3 state results proved that for India, Modi is only the guarantee.
See, actually, this government has totally forgotten the drought in Karnataka. There were many vehicles, even in the previous government, and new purchased only. But these ministers wanted hybrid cars. They are really enjoying the benefits, forgetting the drought and problem of these people. So that it is not needed. There are so many vehicles in Delhi also, but this is very bad precedent.
What's wrong in purchasing it? Is it any wrong in purchasing it? When Modi Sahab has bought a flight of $1 billion, is that any wrong? So when government of India, only on Prime Minister, is able to spend almost 8 to 10,000 crores on buying a plane, so if we are buying a car, what does it matter? It's a regular administration, so every government has to buy, so what is wrong in it if he buys?
Neha, my colleague, joins me for more inputs on this. Neha, as far as the political reactions are concerned, we just heard all of them. But on the other hand, at a time when the current government is also struggling to fulfill those poll promises, financial constraint as well, was this the need of the hour?
Well, Niwedhana, expenditure and luxury expenditure, whether it's been on MLAs or ministers, has always been a raging debate, and more so in Karnataka, because every time there's a government change, we see that one of the first things that's done is the sanctioning of new cars. Remember what was earlier, in fact, cars that were being sanctioned, new, Innovas that were being sanctioned for the MLAs, has now, in fact, further snowballed into these new cars that the government is likely to be purchasing for the ministers here. Understandably so, of course, a political debate has begun over this entire issue now, with the opposition lashing on, in fact, lashing out against the government here, questioning what the need for this was at a time when, the government is already financially burdened in a bid to try and fulfill their, promises that they've made to the people. Was this really necessity? Having said that, of course, you've heard from the government there, they've defended it, saying that once these purchases are made, this is going to be government property and it's going to, further be handed down. It's not for the private use of the ministers here. Well, of course, a debate that the people of Karnataka would really have to, of course, decide on whether this is something that, they're okay with, whether their money, in fact, being spent here, the exchequer's money being spent here is something that they're okay with for these cars for the ministers.
Absolutely, Neha. I appreciate you not only getting us the latest as far as politically how this is panning out, but also essentially questioning how citizens would have to look at that. But we leave it to that for the moment. Thank you very much, Neha. But to understand further as to how political parties as well as citizen voices also are concerned, let me go across to my guest this evening, Anand Gurumurthy, spokesperson of the BJP, Sathya Prakash, Congress spokesperson, Karnataka, and Priya Chetty Rajgopalan, founder, Heritage Beku. Good evening, all of you. Great to see you once again back here on Mirror Now. Anand, let me come to you. As far as this move is concerned, right, do you think this was the need of the hour when we already know with the fact that the current government is struggling to fulfill promises as well?
See, there are some burning facts happening in Karnataka. Number one is drought. Farmers are not getting the money and fodder-related, things that they have to get from the government. Government is not bothered about that. Second one is we have seen that BESCOM and other CHESCOM incidents that are happening in Karnataka because of lack of investment by the government into all these comms to do maintenance, etc. Then third is the law and order problem in Karnataka. Police stations are becoming real estate centers, and all these complaints from MLAs, opposition MLAs, government is not taking anything seriously. They are only worried about one thing: how to, fund the elections of 2024. They are funding all these cars to ensure that their India alliance partners have cars and all the luxury when the elections are conducted in 2024, general elections happen. So this is their way of thinking and doing. They are funding actually Karnataka taxpayers' money into New Delhi to buy new cars. They always come up with all fake narratives about funding not coming from center and other things in social media and media. They don't question anything in the parliament. They don't hear to answers in the parliament, where the transparent government of Narendra Modi is giving them all the answers. But then they do all these kinds of mischief just to, keep their India alliance partner very comfortable in Delhi, using taxpayers' money of Karnataka to buy cars, all these kinds of luxury items. So this is very wrong. They must keep their priorities right. They must attend to the drought problems of the people. They must attend to the law and order problems here in Karnataka, and they must attend to all other, freebie things that they gave, which are, affecting lives of people in many other ways. They should attend to that first. Even when the assembly is going on, they are not bothered about it. They don't even care to answer. This is a completely nonchalant government which thinks that because they have got more number of seats in the assembly, they can do anything they want. People of Karnataka will teach them a very big lesson in the coming days.
All right, Anand, to make those opening remarks with also saying that the priorities are misplaced of the current government, let me get Sathya Prakash in. Sathya Prakash, was this the need of the hour from the current government's aspect? Also with the fact that, like how Anand also pointed out, there are many issues. Also with the fact that how farmers are struggling as well in the state. Also whether it is about infrastructure not having money to be addressing those important problems.
Hi, Niwedhana. We need to understand that out of the 5 promises, 4 promises have already been fulfilled. Only 1 is left, and that also will be fulfilled in January. We should also not forget that this government for the last 6 months has spent 78,000 capital expenditure on infrastructure projects, including, they have given micro irrigation for around 44,000 hectares, benefiting nearly around 44,000 farmers. We need to understand about these cars. This is state's asset. Second thing is, what will happen is, new cars are taken to ministers and other Minister of State ranks or cabinet rank officials. Any car which is more than 2 years or 3 years old is sent back to the Legislative Assembly. Those cars, old cars, will be used for MLAs, ex-MLAs, ex-MLCs, and all the state guests who come into Karnataka. And these new cars will be used for the minister. That's all. There's no change. All the old cars of the ministers will be used by the MLAs, MPs, ex-MLCs, cabinet officers, or government appointees of the boards will be using this. You need to understand that my friend Raman Gurumurthy was talking about drought. Nearly 168 to 170 taluks of Karnataka are under drought. The leader of the opposition and the ACC president, Sri Mallikarjuna Kharge, in the floor of the Rajya Sabha said, not even a single paisa has been released by Sri Narendra Modi for Karnataka. In spite of giving 6 MPs, Mr. Narendra Modi has not even released 1 single paisa for the drought in Karnataka for the last 4-5 months. Delegations after delegations are going and requesting. Has been requested, not even a single paisa has been released by this Modi government. Siddaramaya's government has released 2,000 interim relief for all the farmers who are suffering in this drought. Guruswamy forgets. Don't have any other issues. Assembly is on. If they had any issues, they should have talked about the corruption issues. Should have talked about the development issues. A meager 7.11 crore rupees for around 30 or 35 cars is peanuts when compared to a 10,000 Airbus, which was purchased for Modi. When was it purchased? During COVID's time.
But Sathya Prakash, although it's great work, essentially as to what you're going to say, is that justification for splurging on cars?
Not splurging. Those cars which are already there will go to the MLAs, ex-MLAs, MLCs, which will be used for official protocol. You understand? And these new cars, which will be used by ministers, whose travel is going to be long. They're going to travel across the length and breadth of Karnataka. So they need cars in good condition. That's it. And this is nothing which is new. Yediyurappa bought cars, Manmohan bought cars, Narendra Modi bought cars as CM. All the CMs of the BJP government who are there, now you see in the next 15 days, Rajasthan will buy cars, Madhya Pradesh will buy cars, Chhattisgarh also will buy cars. What is that the BJP is crying horse in Karnataka? They also do the same thing. Go check the records. As in Yediyurappa bought cars, as in Bombay bought cars whenever the BJP government has been formed. They're making more to the hill of the more. These are small routine
All right, Sathya, although
things.
you are sharing with us your perspective, I'd have to ask my producer to cross-check your audio as well. But I essentially understand how you're trying to defend the government's move. But also you went on to state that, crores are being spent as peanuts. And of course, for the common man, that's not the case, right? The taxpayers' money is also being used into this. I'll come back to you, Sathya Prakash. Anand, I do see you have to make a point, but let me get in Priya also into this. Priya, essentially, as a citizen, how do you look at this? Because, multiple times you've also spoken about the other pressing concerns for a state like Karnataka, even if we focus just on the capital city of Bengaluru, where infrastructure, on multiple occasions we've spoken about it, which should be top priority. Do you think the current government doesn't have their priorities the way it should be?
I have a basic concern with the either or philosophy. It's not like you can have one or the other. There's always an and, which you can have a bit of this or a bit of that. But that's not the point. The question that you ask is very, very pertinent in the sense that, is this needed? Is this required? Is this justified? And how does the public, how do citizens like us view this? So let me sort of answer you in two points. One is that I agree with one of my panelists who said that this is very small change. You all know the kind of money that is being spent right now. So this is by itself not a big amount. But that's not the point. The point is how it is viewed. When there is a new expense that is being charted out for, just a few visits to the national capital, I think it smacks a lot of inwardness, indulgence, and luxury. Now, the point made by, I think, Mr. Sathya Prakash was that this is, if you just buy new cars every 3 years, it's not a big deal. It's for transportation. Nobody's taking it home, etc. But while I will not go to the extreme, and I probably will have my head cut off for even saying this, of suggesting that the politicians use an Uber for the few times that they are there in the national capital. But the fact is that this is not a financially viable means to hire cars, which involve maintenance, having a driver, having 24 hours facility, and then it rots for 20 days that you're not there. It doesn't make sense. So any organization, I'm getting into nitty-gritty here, it is not necessary for me to do that, but any organization or any institution will have a pool of 5 or 6 cars that are available. And those are rotated across the bureaucrats and ministers when they're in town, or when there's additional requirements, they always hire a vehicle for that time or lease a vehicle. Why this large expense? So it does not make sense from that perspective because they are not living in the capital. They're just going there for a few days. It is complete, I think it's a complete waste. From that point of view. Now, in September, there was another, I think, 10 crores spent on vehicles here. Before that, 3 years ago, it's like that every 3 years, the cars need to be replaced. I won't go into the merits of that, whether it's required, not required, is it a perk of the minister, etc. But I think in this time and date, for 2 reasons. One is that there is a time of trial and tribulation. There's a huge issue with infrastructure. We apparently don't have the funds to spend on development. So then the reason of spending money on cars, not for daily use or for use to your constituency, but to the rare times you go to the national capital, to have a car available, an expensive car, good if it's a hybrid one, but available for 30 days a month with a driver, with all the additional costs, is a drain on the exchequer. So I think if we are so smart as an IT city, we do so many things quite ahead of our time. I think we should look at just a leasing option. Why are we wanting to buy cars? Why are we wanting to add, a waste to our, to already stretched lives? So these are my 2 perspectives. By itself, no big deal. I mean, it's a number. The kind of things that are being spent are in exponential multipliers of that. So that's a reality. On the second hand, on the logistics of it, it just doesn't make sense. Why would you want to buy something in Delhi? Why? In Karnataka, you already bought one 3 years ago, so stay with that.
All right. Okay. Fair enough, Priya. As far as the perspective of a citizen looking at that, we'll of course try getting in Sathya Prakash to counter that. But before that, let me go across to Anand Gurumurthy. Anand, we also heard what Sathya Prakash was talking about, with the fact that it's peanuts that is being spent on these cars, and it's absolutely not peanuts because we're talking about a huge number of amount over here. Also, it's going to be costing the taxpayer money. Anand.
See, one thing I want to tell you about that comment. See, even if it's 1 rupee from a taxpayer's money, we are responsible. We have to be responsible. As political people, we have to be responsible, whether it is 1 rupee, 1 crore rupees, or 100 crores. We cannot say something is a peanut. No, it's wrong to say that. So I don't agree with that statement of his. But I just wanted to counter some of the Congress leaders, including the Congress spokesperson. They say that the Prime Minister bought an airplane that was actually purchased. Order was placed during Manmohan Singh government when the plane failed to take off on one of the international tours. This happened in India when Manmohan Singh ji was the Prime Minister. And then 2 planes were ordered. And then after the Modi government came in, the planes were delivered and the purchase was completed. So it is wrong to say that it was purchased only during this Modi government. So Congress leaders need to understand this. They should not throw facts like this in a bad way, because people know, with social media and the media being aware and making the people aware, all the people know when the purchases were made, when the orders were placed. Okay. Then the second thing is, as everybody is questioning, it is the timing that people are questioning. See, when you have surplus, when the country is moving forward, when you have a surplus, then you make a purchase related to the political activists and political people, then it makes sense, because politics needs a lot of moving around and other things. But right now, this Congress government has not fulfilled their promises to the core. People are unhappy with that. Second thing, I pointed out very clearly 3 very important fundamental things: law and order, then the BESCOM, CHESCOMs not having money, because of the schemes that they have introduced. And then, of course, the drought problem, where farmers are struggling. In a lot of towns and districts, you can go, and I request all the media people to go and see their suffering and how government is nonchalant. Even though there are funds, they are just not utilizing in these things, because they want to fund their Indie Alliance partners and their luxuries in Delhi. All this is a plan. Okay, and this is something which BJP is pointing out, and comments like, peanuts, this, that, this doesn't look good, because every rupee matters. Okay, it's coming from the taxpayer's pocket, and taxpayers work all day, all year long, okay, and give out this money to the government. Even the GST payers, okay, I'm not just telling about the income tax payers. Every purchase we make, we give the GST. So that has to come back through the government to the people. Okay, like this spending on things when the state is suffering is not correct, and making statements, frivolous statements like this from Congress leaders is not at all acceptable, and people are watching this.
All right, okay. Anand, you have, of course, shared with your perspective as to what the BJP is, of course, questioning as well. But Sathya, what is important here is you've also heard a citizen representative as well as, of course, the opposition leveling these allegations. All in all, how would you counter that? Because there's some important, significant questions raised from the citizen's perspective as well.
Absolutely. I would like to respond to Priyaji, and I would like to know what her reaction would be. In the years of COVID, Mr. Modi is spending 10,000 crores on aircraft. What does Priya has to say about it? When the whole of India was suffering, the migrants were suffering, the MSME was suffering, nearly 120 crores of people were suffering. They went on to build 20,000 crore worth of Vista. What has Priya got to say with it? I know we need to look at it at the meager amount. 7.14 crore or 7.4 crore is very meager when compared to setting it the logistics point of view. We have not just bought cars just for ministers. We have bought cars for the resident commissioner who sits in Delhi. Delhi, whatever cars come there, it is not just the Congress ministers who use it. The leader of opposition can use it. The governor can use it. The senior chief secretaries can use it. The secretaries can use it. Any special representatives of the state can use it. State can even use it for protocol for any state guests that are there in Delhi. And as you know, I have been in Delhi on a daily basis. There are at least 30 to 40 senior IAS officers or state guests who are there in Delhi. And these cars are meant for them. That's it. Okay. We also should understand that nearly 5 cars have been bought for Central Election Commission of the state, CEC of the state. This is not just for ministers or anything. We should not also forget that the cars that the ministers were earlier used, that will go to the secretariat or the assembly secretariat, which will be used by ex-MLAs, ex-MLCs, and all those under protocol who can get a car, on demand, and they pay for it. Every ex-MLA or MLC pays for it, and that is a revenue for the state. That is a revenue for the Vidhana Saudha Secretariat. We need to understand. So whenever we accuse a government, we should look at 7.44 crores. That is nothing big. Yes, if you see that, should we buy at this point of time, if it is absolutely required by the state government and the concerned protocol department has asked for it, I don't think, we are so bankrupt. Karnataka has become so bankrupt that we cannot spend 7.44 crores for these cars, when we have spent nearly 78,000 crores for infrastructure development. Who said there is no money? There is money, but there is no money for waste expenditure. This is not a waste expenditure. This is asset building for the state. No minister will take this car to his home, as Ramlinga Reddy ji said. Please, whenever we point fingers at the government, it should have some rationality. It should have some logic. If someone says no other government across India has bought and only Congress government in Karnataka has bought, then I take it. Then I myself will tell my
But
state
Sathya
government.
Prakash, as you point that out, this is not just the car splurge that we're doing. I'd have to interject you there. Apologies for that. But we'll also play out that graphics in terms of what Karnataka government has splurged. 94 lakh on reels, 300 lakhs on furniture for Chief Minister office. And now, of course, on these cars also, we're looking at these big numbers. What justifies this then?
We had a discussion in Mirror, I think, a month back. This government, BJP-led government, 1 or 2 months in the run-up to the election, spent a staggering 44 crores on advertisements. We spent a meager 95 lakhs on a different platform, on a social media platform, on our schemes, so that people know where we stand. BJP was hell-bent on, on giving a wrong perspective to the government. Every government, it's a prerogative of any government to choose the channel that it wants, the media that it wants. They choose the print media, they choose the visual media, while we choose the social media. And 95 lakhs we spent on social media for reels so that people know about our schemes. That's it. But this same Bommai government, a staggering 44 crores in 2 or 3 months in the run-up to the election. What do you have to say for this? How much
okay, fair enough. I'm taking that point across to Anand Gurumurthy. Then Priya, I'll come to you. The Congress claims you are worse when it comes to spending. What is your response?
Modi government has spent 3,000 crores in the last 1 or 2 years.
Sathya Prakash, you've made your point. Let me quickly get in. Anand Gurumurthy is, beg your pardon. Yes, yeah. Anand, go ahead.
See, basically, all the time Congress is questioned. And I feel sorry for Congress spokesperson because they don't have answers. And then they start pointing at BJP, saying that, okay, BJP has spent this much, that much. Most of the times, it's a bunch of lies. It's from their WhatsApp university, which they get as forwards from their Congress, head of that social media cell or something like that. Okay, even the 40% allegation, it did not stick, okay? They did all kinds of poll promises. Now, they are seeing that in other states. How, people saw Karnataka and how Congress people are behaving, and they defeated him in so many states. Yeah, still, Congress doesn't want to accept that staying with the truth and speaking the truth will only help them in politics. Somehow they, cornered things and, did a lot of social media management and came into power in Karnataka. But still, they're not able to accept that this won't run long. People gave them a chance, but still they are doing the same mistakes. And, people have already shown them the door in so many other states. And they're not learning. It is good. They learn their lessons. They become clean in politics and also start speaking truth. Coming like this in media and throwing allegations is not fine. If Bommai government or Yediyurappa government has done any wrong, or any BJP government has done any wrong, let me be very clear, very specific. Okay, let them take them to the court or let them do any kind of inquiry against us. We have never stopped them from doing any inquiry. Instead, they come in media through allegations, their social media channels and political channels through allegations, which is totally wrong. They should come out with the truth. come with a clean slate and come to the people, provide the promises that they have promised, and show people that they're capable of administration. Instead, the law and order has gone for a toss in this state. You have to see the way people are struggling because of so many rowdy elements on the streets of Bengaluru and many other places. Okay, even pointing out this in the assembly, even though our MLAs have pointed out this in the assemblies, so many robberies, so many chain snatches happening. Instead of fixing all these things, they are putting all good police officers into non-executive posts and bringing in some kind of people who are very close to them based on certain categories and things that they manage internally in Congress, just to please some people, or just to some kind of money laundering happens. So this kind of things are really spoiling my state, and that is the concern that all BJP MLAs are also trying to put across to them in the assembly. In spite of that, nothing is going into the heart of congressmen. They are hell bent on spoiling our state because they have power. They think they can do whatever they want. People will show them the doors everywhere, and only then they will learn their lessons.
All right. Okay. Priya, you of course heard what the BJP and the Congress had to say, but on numerous occasions. All right. Priya, I'm going to come to you for closing remarks, but yes, Sathya Prakash, go ahead.
I want to ask my good friend Anand Gurumurthy, is the parliament in Karnataka, since he was referring to law and order. Today, parliament is attacked and two miscreants have entered into the well of the parliament. And I have a doubt if my friend feels
all right, Sathya Prakash, we're digressing from the subject. I'm afraid there is no room for that discussion. But Priya, no, Anand Gurumurthy, that would be unfair because we have to stick to what we're talking about. It would be to digress. No, I'm sorry. I'd have to interject you both of you over there. Priya, coming to you, we do see, doesn't matter which government it is ultimately, you did hear both of them as well as far as the stances are concerned. But what is it as a citizen that you would like to see change in? Because we'd have to point this out for them to really understand priorities. Is that where we're standing at the moment?
Thank you. The first thing is, when you look at largely what the garments most politicians wear, it's white, it's aesthetic, it is ascetic in some ways. I think that should reflect in life choices as well. It's not a bad idea to go back to our good old, I'm not suggesting any punishment, but I'm saying there's nothing wrong with going back to the good old ubiquitous ambassador, which is a universal kind of, car for everyone. I'm saying stick to the knitting. Now, while, this may be a slightly in jest comment, I think it's important to affirm the issue of being ascetic and keep your belts tightened when you are a politician, when you're responsible to so many citizens. So that's my first point. The second point is, I think it was already proven by both our panelists, where the conversation moves very quickly to politics, and you and me, etc., where citizens like us can smile because we see exactly the same thing in one government A and government B. So there is very little difference. The third thing is, and that niggles. So I was looking at, I appreciated very much Mr. Sathya Prakash's points that, the citizens are accusing us. The citizens are doing nothing. I've been asked for an opinion. I'm sharing my opinion with you. So I know you will take that in the right space and stride. The third thing is, it is not just being, like what they say about Julius Caesar's wife. It is not Calpurnia. It's not just being pure, but being seen as pure. So if you're not marketing that, and that I would come back to Mr. Sathya Prakash's point, where he says, if this is a pool of cars, which is what I was suggesting, then you're just refurbishing, you're taking up the pool of cars and, adding numbers. That's a different issue. But if you're buying new cars for a politician to use for those 2 or 3 days that he or she is in Delhi, I think it's another waste of time. And, and in these days of the gig economy, I think it's an absolute, nonsensical thing to even pursue. The fourth thing is, as citizens of this state, and citizens of Bangalore particularly, for us, it is very, it's just very important to know that there's investment in the city and the state, and that things are more important in the larger picture rather than these small things. And, you're absolutely right. 7.7 crores is not a small amount. Just like in September 23, 9 crores was not a small amount. And so it goes on. But the focus on development, the focus on other critical issues on the state also need to be done. If indeed it was meant for a purpose, which is a pool of cars for a pool of people in Karnataka, please manage your perception and information better. Right now, it does come across that this is a wasteful expenditure. Please manage your communication so that it communicates well to citizens like us who are wondering, we've just spent some money in September, 33 crores. Now we're spending another, 33 cars, so that was 9 plus crores. And now we're spending another 7.5 crores. So while you can dismiss the 5s and 7s and 10s, because as I said, we all know the numbers that are involved in the government, and these are in multiples of thousands, this needs to be addressed. And as citizens, my request is, we are here to collaborate. We are here to support. And we would like to be taken seriously. And our opinion being counted as something that is bound to support you, not something which is an accusation. I would take strong exception to that, because we are here because you are helping us and fellow citizens to make the city and state better. So that's my humble submission, that we are all in this space together. We are here to help you, and you are here to help the citizens of the state.
Fair enough. And on that note, I want to thank all of you for joining us. Of course, after all, it is an ecosystem between the citizens and the government. Sathya Prakash and Anand, although you do want to make points, I'm afraid we don't have that much time. But really, thank you everyone for taking the time out and sharing with us your perspective. We're slipping into a short break. I'm afraid we don't have time. We're slipping into a short break here on News at 7. More news on the other side. Stay with us.